The sky burned crimson over the ruins of New Terra, humanity's last stronghold. In the Orion-armed jagged spires of molten steel jutted from the scorched earth, remnants of a colony that once housed 10 million souls. The air was thick with ash, and the silence was deafening. No birds, no wind, just the faint hum of distant alien war machines. Commander Aisha Kane stood atop a crumbling watchtower, her enviro suit scorched and dented, her pulse rifle slung across her back. Her dark eyes scanned the horizon, unyielding, even as her heart pounded with the weight of loss. 3 days ago, the Kroth Dominion had descended. Their biomechanical ships, pulsing like living organs, tore through humanity's defenses in hours. New Terra's orbital cannons, pride of a united Earth coalition, were reduced to slag. Aisha had watched her squadron, her family, vaporized in a single plasma barrage. She was the last of the 7th Vanguard, and possibly the last human on this rock. But surrender wasn't in her blood. "Humanity doesn't kneel," she whispered, her breath fogging the cracked visor of her helmet. Her gloved hand tightened around the data shard in her pocket, a fragment of Project Dawn, the Coalition's desperate final gambit. If she could reach the uplink station 50 kilometers north, she could transmit the shard's contents to the scattered remnants of humanity's fleet. The Kroth didn't know what was coming. They thought they'd won. A low rumble shook the ground. Aisha crouched, peering over the tower's edge. Below, a Kroth patrol skittered across the rubble, 6-legged monstrosities, their exoskeletons gleaming like oil slicks. Their mandibles clicked in a rhythmic pattern, a language Aisha couldn't decipher, but had learned to hate. She counted 8. Too many for a direct fight, but she wasn't planning on fighting. Not yet. She slid down the tower's broken staircase, her boots silent on the ash-covered steps. The uplink station was her only shot, but the path was a gauntlet of Kroth-controlled territory. She'd need to move fast, stay low, and trust the instincts that had kept her alive when everyone else fell. The night was a shroud, broken only by the occasional flash of Kroth bioluminescence. Aisha navigated the ruins by memory, her suit's HUD flickering with low battery warnings. She'd scavenged what she could, an extra power cell, a half-charged plasma grenade, and a cracked vibra knife. It wasn't much, but humans had built empires with less. Her mind drifted to her brother, Malik, who died defending the colony's fusion core. He'd been a mechanic, not a soldier, but when the Kroth breached the walls, he'd wired the core to overload, taking out a dozen of their dreadnoughts. Go big or go home, he'd grinned over the comms moments before the explosion. Aisha's throat tightened. She couldn't afford to grieve, not now. Grief was a luxury for the living. A sharp crack echoed through the ruins. Aisha froze, dropping behind a shattered wall. A Kroth scout, its segmented body twice her size, scuttled into view. Its sensory spines twitched, tasting the air. Aisha held her breath, her hand inching toward the grenade. If it spotted her, she'd have seconds before it signaled the others. The scout paused, its spines quivering. Aisha's heart hammered. Then a distant explosion, likely a collapsing structure, drew its attention. It skittered away, and Aisha exhaled. She didn't believe in luck, but she'd take it. She pressed on, weaving through the skeletal remains of skyscrapers. The data shard felt heavier with every step, its encrypted contents a mystery even to her. All she knew was that Project Dawn was humanity's last hope, a weapon, a signal, or maybe a miracle. The Coalition's scientists had been cagey, but their urgency had been clear. Get it to the uplink, they'd said, no matter the cost. By dawn, Aisha reached the edge of the dead plains, a wasteland of glassed earth where the Kroth had tested their orbital cannons. The uplink station was a faint silhouette on the horizon, its spire barely visible through the haze. Her suit's oxygen filter was failing, each breath tasting of char and metal. She had maybe 6 hours before it gave out entirely. She crouched behind a jagged outcrop, scanning the plains. Kroth sentinels patrolled in pairs, their glowing eyes cutting through the dust. Aisha's HUD flagged a narrow ravine to the west, a longer route but with better cover. She didn't hesitate. Speed was life, but stealth was survival. The ravine was a claustrophobic maze of sharp rock and twisted metal. Aisha's suit scraped against the walls, each sound a potential death sentence. She moved methodically, her training kicking in despite the exhaustion gnawing at her bones. She'd been awake for 3 days, fueled by stims and sheer will. Sleep was another luxury she couldn't afford. Halfway through the ravine, she stumbled on a body, a human body. The soldier's armor was coalition issue, shredded by Croth claws. Aisha knelt, her fingers brushing the nameplate. Lieutenant Elena Voss. Aisha's squadmate, her friend. Elena's eyes were open, frozen in defiance. Aisha closed them gently, her chest aching. "Rest, sister," she murmured. "I'll finish this." She salvaged Elena's spare oxygen canister and a single thermal charge. It wasn't much, but it was something. Aisha pressed on, the shard in her pocket a burning reminder of her purpose. Humanity wasn't done yet. Not while she still breathed. The ravine opened into a cratered valley, the uplink station now tantalizingly close. But the Croth were waiting. A full encampment sprawled across the valley floor, tents of pulsating organic matter, guarded by dozens of sentinels and a towering bioconstruct, a living siege engine the size of a small building. Its tendrils writhed like serpents, scanning for intruders. Aisha's HUD calculated her odds. 3% chance of success. She snorted. Good enough. She plotted a path along the valley's eastern ridge, where the terrain offered sparse cover. The thermal charge could take out a sentinel or two, but the bioconstruct was another problem. She'd need a distraction, something big. Her eyes fell on a derelict coalition tank, half buried in the ash. Its fusion core was cracked, but intact. If she could rig it to overload, it might draw the Crotha's attention long enough for her to slip through. It was a long shot, but long shots were humanity's specialty. Aisha worked fast, her hands steady despite the adrenaline. She wired the thermal charge to the core, setting a 5-minute timer. Then she ran, keeping low, her suit's cloaking module flickering as it struggled to keep up. The explosion came right on cue, a deafening roar that lit the valley like a second sun. The Croths swarmed toward the blast, their clicks rising to a frenzied pitch. Aisha sprinted for the uplink station, her lungs burning. The spire loomed ahead, its antenna still intact. She was almost there when a sentinel lunged from the shadows, its claws grazing her suit. She rolled, firing her pulse rifle point blank. The sentinel screeched, collapsing in a heap of sparking biocircuits. She didn't stop to check if it was dead. The station's door was in sight. She slammed her fist against the access panel, praying the codes still worked. The door hissed open, and Aisha stumbled inside, sealing it behind her. The uplink station was a tomb of silence, its consoles dark but undamaged. Aisha plugged the data shard into the main terminal, her hands shaking as the system powered up. The screen flickered, displaying a single word, Dawn. A progress bar appeared, uploading. 10%. 20%. Aisha's HUD screamed warnings. Croth signatures closing in. They'd found her. The station's walls shuddered as the bioconstruct battered the outer defenses. 50%. 60%. Aisha gripped her rifle, her back to the console. If she went down, she'd take as many of them with her as she could. The door buckled, claws tearing through the metal. Aisha fired, each shot a defiant roar. "Come on, you bastards," she screamed. 80%. 90%. The console chimed. Upload complete. Aisha's heart leapt. Whatever Project Dawn was, it was out there now, racing across the stars to humanity's remnants. The door gave way, and the Croth poured in. Aisha fought until her rifle clicked empty, then drew her vibra knife. She was one woman against an army, but she was human, and humans didn't break. As the Croth closed in, a blinding light erupted from the horizon. The ground shook, and the aliens froze, their clicks turning to shrieks. Aisha staggered to the window, her vision blurring. Ships, human ships, were descending, their hulls emblazoned with the coalition sigil. Project Dawn wasn't a weapon. It was a signal, a call to arms. Aisha laughed, blood dripping from her lips. "We're not done yet," she whispered. The unrelenting dawn had begun. The uplink station trembled as the Croth bioconstruct slammed against its walls, its tendrils clawing at the reinforced alloy. Inside, Commander Aisha Kane leaned against the console, her vibraknife slick with ichor. The air was thick with the stench of burnt circuits and alien blood. Her suit's HUD blinked red, oxygen critical, vitals unstable. She ignored it. The signal from Project Dawn had gone out, and the human ships descending from the sky were proof it worked. Humanity was coming back. Through the station's cracked viewport, Aisha watched the Coalition fleet carve through the atmosphere. Dropships roared, their plasma trails cutting the crimson haze. The Croth encampment below erupted into chaos, sentinels scattering as human gunships unleashed barrages of kinetic rounds. Aisha's lips twitched into a grim smile. "That's right," she muttered. "You thought we were finished." A metallic screech tore her attention back. The Croth had breached the inner door. 3 sentinels lunged, their claws glinting. Aisha dug behind a console, her knife flashing as she slashed one across its sensory spines. It shrieked, collapsing, but the others were on her. She kicked one back, her boot crunching its exoskeleton, and drove her knife into the second's core. Pain seared her side. A claw had grazed her, tearing through her suit. Warm blood soaked her undershirt, but she didn't stop. Stopping was death. The station shook again, not from the Croth, but from something bigger. A Coalition dropship hovered outside, its ramp lowering. A voice crackled through her comms, distorted but human. "Commander Kane, this is Captain Reza of the Defiant's Wrath. You alive in there?" Aisha laughed, a raw, ragged sound. "Barely. You late to the party, Captain?" Fashionably. "Hold tight, we're coming in hot." The dropship's cannons roared, shredding the bioconstruct's tendrils. Aisha used the distraction, sprinting for the viewport. She smashed it with the butt of her knife, the glass shattering outward. The dropship's ramp was meters away. She leapt, her legs burning with the effort, and landed hard on the ramp. Hands grabbed her, pulling her inside as the ship banked sharply. She collapsed against a bulkhead, gasping. A medic knelt beside her, scanning her wounds. "You're a mess, Commander," he said, his tone light but his eyes tight with worry. "Story of my life," Aisha rasped. "The shard, did it work?" Reza, a wiry man with a scarred face, approached. It worked. Project Dawn wasn't just a signal. It was a blueprint. Every Coalition ship in the sector got it. Schematics for a new weapon. "We're calling it the Dawnbreaker, and we're taking the fight to the Croth." Aisha's chest tightened, not from pain, but pride. Humanity wasn't just surviving. It was fighting back. The Defiant's Wrath docked with the Resolute, the Coalition's flagship, hidden in the asteroid belt beyond New Terra's orbit. Aisha, patched up but still limping, followed Reza to the command deck. The ship hummed with activity, crews recalibrating weapons, engineers poring over Dawnbreaker schematics. The air crackled with purpose, a stark contrast to the despair of 3 days ago. Admiral Lynchen, a steel-eyed woman with a reputation for ruthlessness, greeted Aisha with a nod. "You're a hard woman to kill, Commander." "Croth tried their best," Aisha replied, her voice steady despite the painkillers dulling her senses. "What's the plan?" Lynn gestured to a hollow display. It showed a 3D model of the Dawnbreaker, a sleek, modular device that could be retrofitted onto any ship. Its core pulsed with an energy signature Aisha didn't recognize. "This," Lynn said, "is humanity's edge. The shard you uploaded contained a design for a weapon that disrupts Croth biocircuits. One hit, and their ships go dark. But we've got a problem." Aisha raised an eyebrow. "Always is. The Dawnbreaker needs a rare isotope, trillium, to function. Our scans show one source, a Croth-controlled mining outpost on asteroid KX-19, 2 jumps from here. It's a fortress. We hit it, we get the trillium, and we can arm the fleet. But we're low on ships, and the Croth outnumber us 10 to 1. Aisha studied the hollow display, her mind racing. "Then we don't fight fair. We hit fast, hit hard, and get out." Lynn's lips twitched, almost a smile. "My thoughts exactly. But there's a catch. We've picked up chatter from a neutral species, the Vren. They're scavengers, not fighters, but they know KX-19's layout. We need their help to navigate the outpost. Aisha frowned. The Vren? They'd sell their own young for a profit. Exactly, Lynn said. Which is why we're sending you to negotiate. You're the only one who's survived a Croth gauntlet. If anyone can convince them, it's you. The Vren Enclave was a ramshackle station cobbled together from salvage hulls, orbiting a gas giant's rings. Aisha's shuttle docked amidst a swarm of Vren drones, their glowing optics scanning her for weapons. She'd left her rifle behind, but kept the vibra knife strapped to her thigh. Trust was a bad bet with the Vren. Their leader, a wiry creature named Scrix, met her in a dimly lit chamber. Its 4 arms twitched, adorned with trinkets from a dozen species. Human, it hissed, its translator buzzing. You bring trouble. Croft hunt you. Why should Vren care? Aisha stood tall, ignoring the pain in her side. Because we're offering a deal. Help us hit KX-19, and you get first pick of Akrotha's tech. Their ships, their weapons, yours to salvage. Scrix's eyes gleamed, but it clicked skeptically. Croth are many. Humans are few. You lose, we die. Aisha leaned forward, her voice low and fierce. Humans don't lose. Not when it matters. You've seen what we do when our backs are against the wall. Join us, and you'll profit. Stand aside, and you'll be scavenging our ruins next. The chamber went silent. Scrix's arm stilled, its gaze locked on hers. Then it clicked rapidly, a Vren laugh. Bold, human. We like bold. We guide you to KX-19, but we want half the haul. Quarter, Aisha shot back. And we don't shoot you for trying to double-cross us. Scrix hissed, amused. Deal. The coalition fleet, bolstered by Vren intel, jumped to KX-19. Aisha stood on the Resolute's bridge, watching the asteroid loom into view. It was a jagged behemoth, bristling with Croth defenses, plasma turrets, bioships, and a shield dome pulsing with energy. The Vren had provided a map of the outpost tunnels, but the surface was a kill zone. We go in surgical, Lynn said, addressing the crew. 3 teams. Alpha hits the shield generator, Bravo secures the Trillium, and Charlie, Kane's team, disrupts their command hub. No mistakes. We get the Trillium, we get out. Aisha led Charlie team, a mix of grizzled veterans and wide-eyed rookies. Her second, Lieutenant Rao, a wiry engineer with a knack for explosives, checked his gear nervously. You sure about this, Commander? Feels like a suicide run. Aisha grinned, a spark of defiance in her eyes. Good. That's when humans shine. The teams deployed in stealth pods, skimming the asteroid surface. Aisha's pod shuddered as it evaded a plasma burst. They landed in a crevice, out of sight, and breached the tunnels. The air was thick, humid, alive with the Akrotha's organic stench. Aisha's HUD flagged movement ahead, sentries. She signaled Rao, who rigged a decoy charge. It detonated down a side tunnel, drawing the sentries away. Charlie team moved fast, planting charges at the hub's power nodes. Aisha's heart pounded, but her hands were steady. This was her element. Defiance in the face of impossible odds. Chapter 10, The Breaking Point. The hub was a pulsating mass of biocircuits, the nerve center of KX-19's defenses. Aisha wired the final charge, her HUD screaming warnings. Croft were closing in. Rao status, she barked. Charge is set, he replied, sweat beading on his brow. 10 seconds to blow. The tunnel shook as sentinels poured in. Aisha fired, each shot precise, but they kept coming. Rao took a hit, a claw slicing his arm. He grunted, still working. Go, Commander. I'll finish this. No one gets left behind, Aisha snapped, dragging him to cover. She tossed her last plasma grenade, buying seconds. The charges detonated, and the hub collapsed in a shower of sparks and ichor. The shield dome flickered out, exposing the outpost. Alpha Bravo, you're clear, Aisha shouted into her comms. The fleet descended, hammering the Croth defenses. Aisha and Rao limped back to the extraction point, sentinels on their heels. A dropship swooped in, its guns blazing, and they scrambled aboard. As the ship climbed, Aisha looked down at KX-19. The outpost burned, human ships tearing through the Krotha's lines. Rao, clutching his wounded arm, grinned. Told you it was a suicide run. Aisha smirked. And yet here we are. The Trillium was secured, but the war was far from over. The Dawnbreaker was humanity's hope, but it needed to be built, tested, and deployed. Aisha knew the Kroth would hit back harder. But for the first time in days, she felt something stronger than defiance. Hope. The forge of hope. The Resolute's hangar bay thrummed with urgency. Sparks flew as engineers welded Dawnbreaker prototypes onto the fleet's gunships, their faces etched with exhaustion and determination. Commander Aisha Kane stood on a catwalk overlooking the chaos, her side bandaged but her resolve unbroken. The Trillium from KX-19 was secured, enough to arm a dozen ships with the experimental weapon. But the Kroth weren't waiting. Long-range scanners showed their armada massing near the Orion Veil, a nebula that cloaked their movements. Humanity had days, maybe hours, before the next strike. Her comm buzzed. Admiral Lin's voice was clipped. Kane, briefing room. Now, she navigated the crowded corridors, ignoring the pain flaring with each step. The briefing room was stark, its hollow table projecting a 3D map of the Orion arm. Lin stood with Captain Reza and a new face, a wiry Vren named Scrix, its 4 arms twitching with nervous energy. Kane, Lin said, you've earned their trust. We need it now. Scrix clicked its mandibles. Kroth fortify Vale. More ships, more guns. Vren no back doors, but risk high. You pay more. Aisha crossed her arms, her gaze steely. We gave you a quarter of KX-19 Sol. That's enough. Guide us through, and we'll clear a path for your scavengers to pick the bones. Scrix hissed, amused. Bold human. Deal. But Kroth hunt you. Veil traps ready. Lin activated the hollow display, zooming into the nebula. The Dawnbreaker needs testing. We'll ambush the Kroth at the Veil's edge, hit their vanguard, prove the weapon, and disrupt their buildup. Kane, you lead the strike team. Aisha nodded, her pulse quickening. When do we move? Now, Lin said. They're closing fast. The leap into darkness. The strike team boarded the Defiant's Wrath, a gunship retrofitted with the first Dawnbreaker. Aisha strapped in, her side throbbing but her mind sharp. The crew, veterans and rookies alike, watched her with a mix of awe and fear. She'd become a legend after New Terra and KX-19, but legends bled like anyone else. The ship jumped, emerging at the Orion Veil's edge. The nebula was a swirling mass of red and purple, hiding the Kroth fleet until it was too late. Scanners lit up, dozens of bioships, their organic hulls pulsing. Aisha gripped her rifle. All hands, battle stations. Let's show them what humans can do. The Defiant's Wrath charged, its Dawnbreaker humming to life. Aisha watched the hollow display as the weapon fired, a beam of blue energy slicing through a Kroth frigate. The ship convulsed, its biocircuits frying, then went dark. The crew cheered, but Aisha's eyes narrowed. One down. Too many left. Kroth fighters swarmed, their plasma bolts rattling the hull. Aisha barked orders, her voice steady. Flank left, target their engines. The gunship veered, its cannons roaring. Another frigate fell, but a hit rocked the Defiant's Wrath. Alarms blared. Hull breach, power failing. Hold the line. Aisha shouted, grabbing a rookie who'd frozen. You're not dead yet. The kid nodded, scrambling to his post. Aisha's chest tightened. She'd lost too many already. The heart of the fight. The battle intensified. The Dawnbreaker fired again, taking out a bio-dreadnought, but Kroth reinforcements emerged from the nebula. Aisha's HUD flagged a weak point, a power node linking their command ship. Reza, get us close. I'm boarding. Reza's eyes widened. That's suicide. It's our shot, she snapped. Do it. The gunship dodged plasma fire, closing on the command ship. Aisha suited up, attaching a grapple line. She leapt, the line snapping tight as she swung toward the alien hull. Her boots hit the organic surface, sticky and warm. She cut through with her vibra knife, entering a pulsating corridor. Inside, Kroth sentinels turned, their mandibles clicking. Aisha fought, her knife flashing, each strike fueled by rage. Malik's death, Elena's sacrifice, every loss. Blood and ichor soaked her suit. She reached the node, planting a thermal charge. "Fire in the hole," she growled, diving for cover. The explosion rocked the ship, severing its control. The Kroth fleet faltered, their coordination lost. Aisha ran, pursued by sentinels. A claw grazed her leg, but she kept moving, reaching an airlock. The Defiant's wrath pulled her in, its ramp closing as plasma bolts chased her. The Unbroken Dawn. Back on the Resolute, the fleet regrouped. The Dawnbreaker had proven itself, crippling the Kroth vanguard. Aisha limped to the bridge, her leg bandaged, her face pale but triumphant. Lynn met her gaze. "You did it, Kane. They're retreating." Aisha managed a grin. "Told you humans don't break." The holo display showed the Kroth armada withdrawing into the nebula, their losses mounting. The Vren swooped in, scavenging the wreckage. Aisha watched, her heart swelling. Humanity had struck back. But the war wasn't over. The Kroth would return stronger. She clenched her fist, the data shard's memory burning in her mind. This was just the beginning. The unrelenting dawn was rising, and she'd lead it every step.